of the prophesied curses in Deuteronomy 28. But the details within that chapter creates a huge problem for the Hebrew Israelites' argument. Deuteronomy 28:68 tells us this: the Lord will return Israel to Egypt in ships. They will offer themselves to their enemies as...
Shalom, Israel. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings to the elect, pushing the word across the four corners of the earth, risking your life to do so. And that's why the scriptures say, "Blessed is he that readeth." Right? That word, that meaning, blessed is he that understands. Because anybody can pick this book up and open it up, and all this. Oh, no, this don't mean nothing. Okay, well, what is it? What does it mean? What does it mean? And this guy, this is one of the reasons, because you have to study, man. You have to study. It says that, Sirach 18:19, learn before you speak. Yeah, we don't use all these different versions of the Bible because the version is incorrect. Even in some of these apps we use, some of these little phone apps, they'll have little mistakes and errors in them. You gotta watch it. Sometimes it'll say it's not this, and but it'll really be that. You know, you just gotta look. You gotta look. Shit. We even know, when the blue letter makes an error, right? The clerical errors in the King James version, there are, but we know where they are. Right? The King James version actually went into the original language, which is the Hebrew, which is what you want to do when you're dealing with text that's thousands of years old. When you go into, the Legacy Standard Bible or whatever, a version that is pulled from another version, it's pulled from another version, it's gonna change the meaning of what's said. All right, really, you should go into the Hebrew. That's what we use the blue letter for, and all these different other Strong's, definitions. All right, and it's a bunch of other dictionaries too. But if the Spirit is not with you, then you're gonna get all that wrong. And that's why the scriptures say, be assured of who you learn from. Right? Because the apostles have shown us this example, apostles, bishops, elders, shown us this example from the jump. And, we follow suit, and we understand, the things that have been given to us. I've never seen anybody teach with the Legacy Standard Bible. Now the NLT is good. It simplifies that Old English pretty well, but sometimes the NLT also is mistaken. Sometimes the NLT goes off. Certain scriptures that are parabolic, it tries to oversimplify them, and it'll change the original meaning of what's being said. All right, and let's look at this. It says in Yahweh, it's supposed to be Yahweh will bring you to Egypt. Yahweh Shem Shai will bring you to Egypt in ships by the way about which I spoke to you. You will never see it again, and there you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but there will be no buyer. No, the scriptures don't say we will offer ourselves. Why would we bring us? Come on, man. Hey, can you put me on the ship? Chain us down, feed us slop that you would feed the dogs. Put us flat so that we all, standing next to each other, throwing it up and shitting on each other, bleeding on each other. Yeah, man. Just chain me down and take my wife and my kids and, beat the shit out of us on a 3-month journey where it's cold as fuck. I'm sitting there in my skivvies and shit, or maybe you do have pants or whatever. Bring us to America, and then I'm going to go ahead and sell myself and separate from my family and separate from my tribe. And, it's going to be, no, that's not what happened. This is why these Edomites were guilty. Right? Their children, like they said, their children, see they inherit lies. All right, and then You had, was it J.P. Morgan apologize? Right? Yeah, J.P. Morgan, a predecessor's linked to slavery. Two of his predecessor banks had specific links to the slave trade, which a bunch of banks did. That's how, yeah, it's the nation's second largest bank. That's how a lot of these Edomites came up. And that's what boosted the economy, right? And they didn't just come over and just grab us either. It was fighting. It was wars. You know, we actually fought them. And that's another part of history that they omit. You know, there was fighting. There was wars. All right. Then Esau collaborated with Ishmael. They collaborated with Ham. Right, to finally bring us down, and to give, you know, some of them Hamites into our lands. Right, and some of our people too played a part. Right, some of our people joined in with them damn heathens. You have certain people of the Igbo who've actually admit that. Right, and for all the tribes, we all went into captivity. Shit, did the Native Americans just give themselves here, man? Just come. Yeah, they allow Esau to come into certain parts of their land, but then eventually they're like, hold on, man, these niggas got to go. All right? And Mexico began as a slave colony. They came over and started the bullshit, and then fought against them. Right? And in every case, the Lord delivered us into their hands. This is so-called black, so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans. We were delivered to the hands of our enemies. And that was through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai for us disobeying him. Right? Going to fuck off into all these other heathen customs and heathen ways. Right? When it says, and no man, verse 68, Deuteronomy 28:68, it says, no man shall buy you, means no man shall redeem you. Right, to get, acquire. You go down, it says of God originating, redeeming his people. Nobody's gonna redeem us, because you can buy a servant back. Matter of fact, Leviticus 25 and (42), because we weren't supposed to sell our own people as bondmen. All right, Leviticus 25:42, it says, for they are my servants which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. So this is the original land of Egypt. All right, Deuteronomy 28:68 is referring to America. It says they shall not be sold as bondmen. Right, what is a bondman? Somebody you got in chains, shackled up. There's somebody in bondage, a servant who's in bondage. They might be a servant, but you're not gonna chain them up in bonds like that. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but thou shalt fear thy power. Right? Yeah, we were ruled over with rigor, harshness, severity, cruelty. You know, people getting their eyes poked out, and that hot iron put on you to mark you as a slave. Shh. All right, your kids being killed before you, your wife being raped, torn apart, like slicing women. You know what I'm saying? Just ugly, cruel shit. Yeah, we're gonna keep talking about it because it was fucked up. But it was the will of the Lord. He said, what now if our rock had not sold us? Right, we were sold into that. It says, thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but thou shalt fear thy power. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids which thou shalt have shall be of the heathen that are round about of you, Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. But they shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. Right, that's what it talks about, buying. And if a sojourner or stranger wax rich by thee, and thy brother that dwelleth by him wax poor, and sell himself unto the stranger or sojourner by thee, or to the stock of the stranger's family, after that he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brethren may redeem him. There you go. He can be redeemed. He can be bought back. See, we went over here to America. Nobody bought us back. Okay, I want him back. I know him. He's of my tribe. That's what happened in 12 Years a Slave. They found out that, was this guy Solomon Norfolk? And he was really from Britain, and he had paperwork and shit. And then they bought him back. And the whole premise of the movie is like, damn. And that was that was a rare, because there are exceptions to every rule, but that was a rare situation. That's why they made that to a movie. Like, god damn. In that case, he was able to be bought back, even though they could have just said, no, fuck you, we're gonna keep him. That ain't the guy that we're looking for. But once the guy came and was like, hey, are you Solomon Norfolk? He's like, yeah, that's me. Got the fuck up out of there. All right, in that case, he was redeemed, which is a very rare occurrence. All right, most places, your ass is a slave, and I believe Mississippi was the final state to release the slaves. All right, they actually had to send in the National Guard to actually release us from being bond men and bond women, which we're still servants. We're just not in bonds, physical bonds. All right, but Jake is still in mental bonds. You're still in mental captivity. All right, for you to fight against this scripture, which talks about how you got here and why, then that means you must want to stay here. See, that's it. You must want to stay here. All right, but this is what's going to happen. Jeremiah 50:34 says, their Redeemer is strong. So this is what Yahweh Shai has come to do. Free the prisoner. All right, verse 33, we got to start there. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah, so-called blacks, so-called Native Americans, so-called Latinos, and the different speckled bird Israelites scattered worldwide. All right, but just speaking on over here in the Western Hemisphere, that's who it is. But our people are worldwide, probably in every country. All right, we are pressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. See, they refused to let us go, because there's certain rights that you have as a man. You have a right to land ownership. You know, every in the scriptures, every nation has land rights. This is their land. This is your land. This is this person's land. Then you have rules for what you can do. All right, you have a right to have, as you know, multiple wives. You have certain rights which in this place are oppressed. No, you can't do that. That's why it says they oppress a man, his house and his heritage. But no, this is America. This is our rules. This is what you have to do. You will own nothing and be happy, and we'll tell you what to do and how to think, and feed you slop and feed your kids slop, and make sure we indoctrinate them with American learning so they don't know shit. And they're just a mindless consumer scrolling on social media all day. And we're pressed together, and they refuse to let us go. The Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause. Right, he's going to fuck Esau up, that he might give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. All right, and this place is going to be disquieted because it's going to be destroyed. And anybody who wants to stay here You can stay here, but it's going to be destroyed. So feel free to stay here. You know, I'm tired of this shit where we have to convince Jake, hey man, we got to leave, man. We can't stay here, man. You gotta convince Jake to leave the plantation. And then you got niggas trying to fight you and shit. Nah, man, it was so good there, man. They fed us good, man. Good boss. Fed us, man. Fuck that. I'm leaving. May the Lord receive me up into you know, beam me up. What does it say? They should be called to him in the air. Right? That's it. We trying to get the fuck out of here. If you're in your right mind. If you're not, then I don't know what to tell you. You can stay. It says, sword is upon the Chaldeans, said the Lord, and upon the inhabitants about, and that's what's going to happen. The sword is over this place. Destruction is going to happen. And upon her princes and upon her wise men, a sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. Okay? That's all these people. Right? Military too. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots and upon the mingled people that are in the midst of her. Right? All these heathens that came here, right, which they're complaining about. They have to leave. You brought them over here. You mingled yourself with them. And then they figure out the game. They figure out the lick. Oh, what do? You do this? Oh. And then white Edomites are mad. Oh, they're repopulating too fast, and then they're taking over, and there's a mosque here, and yeah, that's what you get for allowing freedom of religion, right? Which is one of the things about America, whoredom. That's one of the things about America that's so appealing to all these heathens to come here. You say, I can believe what I want to believe. I can outwardly worship my God. Yep, just pay your taxes. And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images, Uriah. And they are mad upon their idols, especially during this time. You're going to see Jake got the whole yard full of all kind of idols, house full of it. Big ass Christmas. That's how you know. That's how I know a house with a so-called Latino household. They're gonna have Christmas up. They're gonna have the Virgin Mary, Guadalupe, all these false graven images. They are mad upon their idols. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owl shall dwell here, because it's going to become a desert. And it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So nobody's going to dwell here for forever. It's going to be made an example of what not to do. Right? Behold, a people shall come up from the north. Right? This is North America. A great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. But excuse me, this is actually referring to Russia. Right? That's actually referring to Russia. Right? They're going to actually fight against the daughter of Babylon. It's talking about Russia. Selected for that one. They say they shall flee from the north country. That's the scripture I was thinking of. Excuse me for that. And this is why you have to be taught by the true teachers of the scriptures. Right? I only watch the Brothers of Great Millstone. I don't watch all these other camps. I don't watch all these other guys. It's too many people on the scene who are new and don't really know what they're talking about, and they've never actually navigated through the scriptures. Right? Just stick with the Brothers of Great Millstone. Even the young men.
Israel to Egypt in ships. They will offer themselves to their enemies as slaves. No one would buy them. But within the transatlantic slave trade, there were large numbers of people being bought and sold. So that doesn't really work with that prophecy. Also, the text names Egypt, a real place tied to Israel's history, which you can try to make the argument that Egypt simply just means being in bondage or slavery. It can work, but this is what completely destroys the Hebrew Israelites' argument.
He said it could work. Well, that could work. No, it can work. It does work. That's what it's talking about. You should be sold into Egypt again, brought into Egypt again with ships. Okay? What was it talking about? Oh, well, the 7 days war, the people in the land of Israel fought the Egyptians. That's not what it's talking about. See, that Deuteronomy 28:68. That's a key scripture. That's a key scripture. You can't get around that one. Certain scriptures, you could try to, oh, that's not what that meant. Like, Deuteronomy 28:68. That cuts a lot of bullshit.
36 tells us that a king will be taken into slavery with his people.
Yeah. And that Esau didn't necessarily know. Okay, this person is King David. This person is this person. Esau don't know who our people are. They don't. With them, they have houses, right? You have royal house, right? Royalty, royal figures, royal people. Affluent people who are affluent, and you have commoners, right? Now, in Esau's kingdom, you have to be vile and do certain things to get that rank. But when they deal with other nations, they really don't acknowledge, the royal members of this nation, the royal member. Oh, he's royalty from it. They don't acknowledge that shit. They don't care. You are all a nigga to me. All right, now they'll go over to the Middle East and play that game, with the royalty of Ishmael and shit. They'll play that game, but they really don't care about that. All right, if you're a regular person in day clothes, you're a nigger. All right, unless you can help us to make some money. Hell, and even in Israel, shit, all the tribes have it's a royal house of Benjamin. It's a royal house of Issachar. You have royalty amongst all the tribes. Right, royal house of Judah.
Into a land that their fathers had never seen. But we know that there was no African king taken into slavery along with his people.
But how do you know that? You don't know that. A king is just somebody who's a ruler over his people. The scriptures say every nation has a ruler. In Sirach 17:17, it says, For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people, but Israel is the Lord's portion. Right? Every nation has a ruler. Israel has a ruler. All right. Now, after we went away from our heritage, it may have been lost of who's of the tribe of this tribe, some of those specifications may have been lost, which some people actually did know. But who's of this royal house, who's of the these Edomites don't ask that. Okay, this guy, he's King so-and-so. Okay, we're going to get him. They don't care about that.
Taken into slavery along with his people.
That's why a lot of our people sell out. They don't care that we're royal. Now, a lot of them know through the spirit that some about them is different. Like through observation, a lot of Edomites said, man, you're always washing your hands, man. You're always clean. Yeah, black people, they always, they don't like when we cook and don't wash our hands and don't clean the meat. And see, some of them they observe and they know, but for the most part, they don't care.
But we do know of a king who was taken into exile. Israel's ancient king Jehoiakim was taken into the Babylonian exile.
That's not talking about Jehoiakim. That scripture is actually talking about King David, who's going to be set back on the throne, and that's one of the ways you know that the true people of the Bible are back in power.
Along with his people. That matches with the text. Also in verse 49, it describes a nation striking fast like an eagle.
Yeah, as swift as an eagle. right? A nation as swift as an eagle. What's the symbol for America? The eagle, proud eagle.
That's a fast military invasion, not some almost 400-year trade system.
They came in quickly. It took us down, right? Hey, it didn't take that long. Yeah, it was some fighting. It was some back and forth, but we got taken down. Right? They came over, they didn't just walk. They're not just gonna walk through us. Cortez, Columbus, they didn't just walk through Jake, but eventually, you get taken down. The battle was given over to them. It was their time to rule.